Well, we're here today to celebrate 25 years of OSHA's life-saving work. Now, over the past 2 years, I've stood up on a number of occasions to talk with you at various town hall meetings. And quite frankly, over the past 18 months, most of those discussions have made me wonder from time to time whether we would actually get to our 25th birthday, considering what we were talking about. I mean, these are discussions about budgets and OSHA reform, gloom, doom. Well, today we can finally get together and talk about something overwhelmingly positive. You and the work that you've done over the past 25 years in protecting the health and safety, saving the lives of millions of working men and women in this country. You have enabled us to get to this milestone today of OSHA's 25th anniversary. Now, it may be possible later this week to have another discussion about the budget, perhaps a final word on our fiscal 1996 budget. But as Abraham Lincoln said, with high hope for the future, no prediction in its regard is offered, at least not today. It's not easy being a public employee in this country today. It's especially difficult at OSHA. You know, there's never been enough time, enough people, enough resources to do everything we would like to do to protect worker health and safety. And at the same time, we've been constrained on the resource side. It seems like there's never been a shortage of complaints about what we've done. No gap between criticism and the work we've done. But look at the impact we've had together and that you've had. Look at the difference you've made in the lives of working men and women in this country and indeed around the world. It is a remarkable testament to you and your accomplishment over these 25 years. I asked a few people this morning to sort of think about significant events in OSHA's history and quickly events like the Bailey's Crossroads building collapse came to mind, the cooling tower which collapsed in West Virginia, the L'Ambiance Plaza building collapse in Connecticut, the 1981-82 budget cuts and the rifts that resulted, the special emphasis program conducted after the Bhopal chemical disaster in India, where we looked at MIC problems in the U.S., found some interesting record-keeping problems at Union Carbide, the Phillips Petroleum explosion in Texas, the chicken fire at Imperial Foods in Hamlet, North Carolina. All tragedies which bring to mind the importance of our mission and the critical role OSHA's had in bringing to bear and focusing public outrage on these incredible violations of worker health and safety. But we can think also of the successes, and there are too many to go through, but just among many. Guidelines to protect meatpacking workers from the hazards of repetitive motion, the egregious penalty policy, the cotton dust and benzene decisions from the United States Supreme Court establishing the basis for OSHA's standard setting, the vinyl chloride standard, the trenching standard, the resumption of federal enforcement in California after California returned the state plan to us, and more recently the complaint policy where we phone and fax and get hazards abated more quickly with less resources. OSHA has moved in these 25 years from the most basic problems of worker health and safety, the traditional conception, I believe, that existed when the Act was created, protecting construction workers from falls, protecting workers from electrocutions, to hazards that we confront today that were unheard of 25 years ago, repetitive motion injury, violence in the workplace. And in every one of these instances, you have met every challenge. Now, over the past 2 years, or the past 18 months, I have to confess there have been moments when I've wondered whether we collectively this time would find the challenges to be too much, or whether I would find them to be too much. But every time I had doubts, every time I began to wonder, I would have an encounter of some members of the OSHA team, whether it was a group of standards writers that were coming into the office to discuss how they were wrestling with the policy issue of establishing appropriate exposure limits. And I would listen to the feeling that those folks would bring to the work, and the often quiet but nonetheless extremely powerful advocacy that they would bring to the job. Or I would think about being in the field, meeting with staff in the field office and listening to them as they tried to sort out priorities. Did we want more partnership? Did we want more enforcement? And I'd say, no, we want both. And they would talk about the successes they had locally, the initiatives, the innovations that they'd come up with to improve the work. Or I think back here in the national office as a group wrestles, a team wrestles with developing a new penalty policy or some other policy. And I think about the commitment. I think about the heart that you've put into the work, and I would come away inspired to go back to the Hill one more time, to argue with our opponents one more time, to fight for our budget one more time. So from a very personal perspective, thank you. Now, we say thank you for many things in our society. If somebody opens the door for us, we say thank you. If you pick up a piece of paper you dropped, we say thank you. And when I say thank you today, I'm clearly trying to put a lot more into it. You have inspired me to try to do the best I can and inspire me to help think about what we can do in the next 25 years of OSHA's future. So, for me, thank you, and on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of workers who will never have a chance to meet you, but whose lives you have impacted immeasurably, thank you. So give yourselves a hand, please.